Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to some sprint racing with Club 100 for 2022. And this time we are in the south of Wales at Llandau Kart Track. If you are going to try and pronounce the two L's correctly. I've never been particularly good with pronouncing Welsh names, despite living on the border. So sorry to any Welsh people out there for butchering your language. But we're going straight into race number one, where we start about midway up the grid. And we're in heavyweights this time. We've eaten too many pies, had too many cakes, and got pretty sick and tired of having to eat absolutely nothing in order to stay down in lightweight. So we've made the move up into heavyweight, and it's actually quite nice being able to race on the weight limit rather than 10 kilos over it. But as we start this race, we're about middle of the pack, and we're going to see how far forward we can get against a bunch of new racers, people that we haven't raced against before, people who've been watching race as part of the SP60 Championship or during the Sundays as well when it comes to the heavyweight heats. We get passed by Chris Alcott there, who's come absolutely flying past us, and he's making another move already going down to the final corner. See if we can follow him through there, but we're not able to quite carry the same amount of momentum. We were still struggling a little bit on this Sunday morning, despite having done the SP60 the day before and the test in the afternoon as well. It was a tricky circuit to get my head around. I think we did by the end of the day. We seemed to have okay pace by the end of Sunday, but yeah, still this first heat, trying to shake the rust off from the day before and get ourselves into a rhythm. So managed to make a move there as we go past one of the super heavyweights, and we're back on the tail of this gent in front of us with the black suit, white helmet. See if we can progress a little bit further. You can see Chris Alcott's already disappeared well off into the distance. We've got a few other C2s and C1s in this race, us being a C2, and we make the move up through the last corner, and that's us up into another position. I think we finished this race 6th in the end. You can see here we've made a little bit of an inroad as we come towards the close of this race, but it wasn't really quite enough to get ourselves up with them as Dower Low comes flying past us there through McWhirters, and we had to give him the space there. We don't want to run him off the road and slow ourselves down. Carried quite a decent bit of speed through that corner. We'd like to say in the SP60 video, really enjoyed going through that corner. But anyway, straight on to heat number 2, and again we're starting towards the back of this grid. So for those of you that aren't sure, when it comes to the sprint racing, you get 3 heat races, and then depending on how well you do in those, it will dictate where you're going to start in the finals, whether you're going to be in the C, the B or the A final. And if you start in the C or the B final, you've always got the ability to move up into the next one if you finish in a high enough position. So it's the first 4 in the C final progress through to the A. No, they don't. They go through to the B final rather, and the top 2 in the B final go through to the A. So we had a bit of a mid-pack finish to that last race. So we definitely want to try and get a decent result here. As we sort of narrowly miss running into the back of Alex Pritchard there, but we managed to just check ourselves up enough and not risk punting somebody off. But in doing so, we lost quite a bit of momentum and lose those 2 positions that we were trying to get by going around the outside the first part of that chicane. So still quite a bit of work to do if we want to try and get further up the field in this heat number 2. Having started towards the back, it was really important that on those back starts you do progress forwards, otherwise you're at risk of being trapped and getting a result which could see you into a B or C final. As Alex there doing some defending into the last corner, trying to squeeze the other chap that's there, trying to get him over the line, and I think he just held on there. So this time, having started towards the back of the grid, we are now on pole, and we've got the very, very speedy Joe Holmes behind us in this race as well. So it's going to be important for us to try and get away, and then if Joe does come through, try and stay on his bumper and use his wealth of experience to help us learn this very challenging, tricky, technical Llandau kart circuit. So off the start, we've made a good getaway. We're leading through the first half of the lap, and then a couple of laps later, going into the last corner is when Joe makes his move, and we kind of saw that one coming. Didn't fight him too much, and you can see there he just about saw his hand there saying let's go, let's move forward together. So that's what we intend on doing. Joe is a C1 and we're a C2, so in the grand scheme of things we're not really fighting each other, but obviously the further forward we can finish a race, the better grid position we'll get in whatever final it is we end up being in, whether that's the A, B or C final. So we're there trying to stick on the Joe's bumper. He's looking over his shoulder, seeing we're still there. at this point again, it was kind of, I was going to be quite happy finishing in second in this one, having had two sort of sort of pretty average heats to start off with. So as we come towards the close of this lap, we haven't really been dropped by Joe, which is really positive to see. It was nice and happening as he looked over the shoulder. A bit of a double take there from Joe. I think not quite sure he expected us to be behind him at this stage of the race, because he obviously has very good pace, but we were staying up with him, and that was confidence inspiring for us. A nice little thumbs up there from Joe as well, which is it's a nice community, is Club 100. So as we move on to the A final, we got ourselves to the A final. We are starting on P10 for this one, so on the outside, meaning that we'll be on the outside of the first corner, but inside for that left-hander. So we were sort of already thinking ahead to what we could possibly do at the start of this race. So we're starting there behind Matt Horgan. Had a good little chat to him on the day. Very nice chap. So in general, just the people at Club 100, lovely people. But we've got an A final to talk about. So as we come across the line, we see, I'm pretty sure that was Chris Alcock and Anwar just taking the alternative line across the first corner. And then Joe, feeling a bit left out, decides to take a bit of grass as well. But at the time, there were some penalties dished out there, I think, for suspected loading going to the first corner. However, after the race, those penalties were rescinded after discussion with the drivers. So I think it was a bit of a accidental tangle with each other, and it was deemed to be of no consequence. So we've actually gained a place and lost a place. We actually got the inside of Matt, and in doing so, Steve was able to come steaming past us through the inside, having taken a quite nice line through the Huertas. So we gained one on Matt, lost one to Steve, and Steve now has a look as he hops across the curve there on the inside of Darryl. Darryl feels like he was a bit hard done by there, maybe a bit tapped by Steve, but we are going to pick up the pieces and follow Steve through. And at this point, we were noticing that the only real place that we were really kind of like able to gain a decent amount of time, Steve, was through that right hand flick there. We were able to take a much better line from there, and everywhere else he was quite strong, especially top end. So going into that last corner, it was very difficult to try and get moved up. But because we know that, we're going to try and use it to our advantage. So as we come up to the corner in question, we sort of show our nose, force Steve to take a bit of a compromised line, and then that gives us, as we're able to take a better line, more momentum. And as we get over towards the first part of the chicane, we've got up alongside. Steve ends up realising the move's done. He backs out a bit and tucks in behind so that we lose as little time as possible together. And then I was then signalling to Steve, come on, let's see if we can work together to catch these guys up in front. We spent quite a bit of time behind Steve. As I say, he was very strong in a straight line, so it made it very difficult to overtake earlier. But as we come on to the final lap of the race, we've broken down the gap a little bit, but not quite enough. But we do come across the line at the end to come P3 in class. First weekend in heavyweights, and we managed to get ourselves onto the C2 podium, which was a very nice way to end the weekend indeed. So until next time, thank you very much for watching, and as always, have a good one.